He sold the Eiffel Tower twice, but that was just the beginning. In the shadows of a world at war, Victor Lustig evolved, no longer just a con man. Some say he worked for both sides. Others say he worked for no one but himself. What is known is this: in an age when truth was scarce, he turned lies into currency. It was 1939. Europe was unraveling. Countries fortified their borders. Radios crackled with static and threats. The sky over Paris was filled with smoke. Not from war yet, but from the sense that war was coming. Victor Lustig watched from the sidelines, or perhaps from the center. He had no allegiance, no flag. He was a man of many names. The press called him Count. The police called him a ghost. He had escaped prison in the US once before. The cuffs came off like clockwork, his movements smooth, deliberate. He made it look like leaving was part of the plan all along. He had seduced millionaires, deceived generals, and danced through high society. War, for Lustig, wasn't a crisis. It was an invitation. In wartime, people believe faster. The fear helps. So does desperation. Victor Lustig forged a world of seals, stamps, and signatures. Diplomatic letters, bank clearances, embassy orders, all fake, all perfect. He dressed like a man who belonged in marble offices, spoke 5 languages, knew how to pause just long enough to make a lie feel earned. His greatest invention? The Ego Bank of Paris, a phantom institution with fake clients, false ledgers, and a Paris address no one ever checked. The paperwork was exquisite, letterhead on thick ivory, golden embossing, replies to inquiries typed with bureaucratic care. He promised loans, guaranteed transfers, took deposits, and vanished before the math caught up. Sometimes he was a banker, other times a diplomat. Always the role they needed him to play, because Lustig knew the truth. People don't fall for lies. They fall for what they want to be true. It began a late afternoon in a Paris cafe. Lustig sat across from a man in the scrap metal business, an ambitious dealer with more money than caution. Lustig opened a folder. Inside was blueprints, city permits, letters from the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs, all fake. He spoke softly. The Eiffel Tower, he said, was falling apart, too costly to maintain, too outdated to save. The French government wanted it dismantled. Quietly, they were looking for someone discreet. The dealer listened, eyes darting between the documents and the tower visible just outside the window. Steel, rusted, looming, waiting. Lustig never said the word bribe, but he let it hang there, unspoken, elegant, necessary. The buyer paid up. Of course he did. Lustig took the money, promised he'd be in touch with transport schedules, inspection papers, removal crews. Then he vanished. No schedule, no crews, not even a goodbye. The dealer, too embarrassed to report it, said nothing, which meant Lustig could do it again, and he did. He sold the Eiffel Tower twice. He didn't need to climb it. He didn't need to touch it. He simply told a story believable enough to cash in. Because that's the trick. A con doesn't need truth. It needs urgency. It needs silence. And most of all, it needs someone too proud to admit they've been fooled. As Europe burned, Lustig slipped into a new role, an arms dealer. A man who sold secrets too dangerous to verify. He didn't fear the Nazis. He saw them as customers. In the occupied zones, truth bent easily. Lustig offered forged intelligence, whispered half-truths, and watched fear do the rest. In Lyon, France, he met with an SS officer in a private upstairs room, thick with smoke, silence, and suspicion. The man wanted proof of Allied sabotage. Lustig delivered a dossier, heavy with forged telegrams and maps, stamped, sealed. He spoke little, let the officer fill in the blanks. The payment came in cash, folded with precision, and Lustig was gone before the ink dried. He played others too, colonels, lieutenants, informants, all chasing secrets. all certain they were one step ahead. He gave them resistance networks that didn't exist, drop points that led nowhere, fake traitors to arrest just to keep them busy. By the time the SS realized the arrests had already been made, the radios dismantled, the lies embedded in their own reports. In a war built on certainty, Lustig sold confusion. Somewhere between Geneva and Madrid, Victor Lustig found his most lucrative mark, an American industrialist with steel gray hair, deep pockets, and a conscience lined with national pride. The man was in Europe on business, but really he was looking for a cause to support, something noble, something that would place him on the right side of history. Lustig appeared in a dark lobby bar at just the right moment. He introduced himself as a liaison to the French resistance, a discreet financier moving money, weapons, and men beneath the eyes of the Gestapo. He spoke with gravity, carried a forged British intelligence badge, produced maps of occupied territory, marked with phantom drop zones and fake code names. He painted a picture. Money transformed into radios, safe houses, explosives, every dollar a dagger in Hitler's back. The industrialist nodded, moved, flattered, and entirely deceived. $500,000 in bearer bonds exchanged hands. Lustig offered receipts stamped with imaginary emblems, a contact list of ghost operatives, and an assurance that weekly reports would follow. None ever came. By the time suspicion set in, Lustig was gone. Not a trace, not a whisper, just one more believer, just one more beautiful lie. By spring of 1944, the walls were closing in on Lustig. There were whispers in hotel lobbies, a composite sketch passed hand to hand. Too many names, too many lies, too many people asking questions. So, Lustig vanished. He boarded a night train out of Lisbon with a ticket under a false name, changed suits in the lavatory, burned the dossier he no longer needed. By the time the doors opened in Madrid, he wore a new accent, a new mustache, a new past. Authorities followed shadows. They raided the wrong flats, tailed a man who looked like him from behind, until he turned around and wasn't. Lustig was already elsewhere, sipping coffee behind tinted glass and reading headlines about a manhunt he'd written himself out of. In the end, it wasn't a prince or a general who caught him. It was a postal inspector. Lustig had returned to America. Old tricks, new faces, a money printing scam, which ironically also was how the scams started. The Secret Service watched. His partners turned on him, and one day, in 1945, they took him quietly in New York. No spotlight, no last performance, just handcuffs and silence. He was sentenced to Alcatraz. Just a few years later, he passed, alone. A man who sold the Eiffel Tower, who swindled Nazis, but died as inmate number 300. Victor Lustig built his fortune on stories, and his stories outlived the fortune, because some men lie to get ahead, and some become legends doing it.